Good evening, how are you? I am Angel, welcome to the channel. On Saturday, July the 20th, Peruvian historian Carmen McEvoy presented the new edition of her book Civilizing Warriors, Politics, Society and Culture in Chile during the Pacific War. I couldn't attend unfortunately, but I remember that I made a video review in 2017. I was lucky enough to see her at the Lima International Book Fair 2016 and she autographed me this and another book called Chile in Peru. Anyway, I'm going to self-plagiarize the video I made 7 years ago. Let's start. This book was originally published in Chile in 2011 and this, by the editorial fund of the Pontifical Catholic University of Peru, is the Peruvian edition, the previous one from 2016. This is an extremely interesting book because unlike what we are generally taught in schools or the narration of the atrocities of war, the causes and consequences, this book is not narrating the war, or it does so in a very indirect way. I understand it as a kind of opening of us Peruvians to how Chilean historiography has conceived from the point of view of Chile, of course. How we go from an old Chile to a new Chile in terms of politics and government, with a lot of resistance to change on the part of the military and the Chilean elite. The Chileans know that it is necessary to take the wealth of Peru and Bolivia by force. However, that could not be said, let alone publicly, and the country had to take the role of victim in the face of this Peruvian-Bolivian perfidy of a secret treaty, of hypocrisy on the part of those two morally, culturally and even racially inferior countries, or at least they were considered as that by the Chileans. Chile is conceiving an otherness in relation to those two countries. It regards them as inferior, lands of savage Indians, barbarians. That civilization, barbarism, opposition can be seen throughout the book. What I notice transversely is that speech that, as the title of the book says, Chile is a country that had to redeem and punish Peru for its perfidy and betrayal. And this struggle between Peru, Chile and Bolivia is seen in various levels and fields. For instance, the press. The Peruvian press had its own conflict with the Chilean one. Peruvian newspapers were regarded as something that did not deserve to be called as such. The Chilean church also took part in that war. It defended and promoted Christian and Catholic nationalism. It is incredible how we have been taught that Chile was a united, almost homogeneous country in which everybody had the same national purpose, while Peru and Bolivia were simply a disaster and an eternal chaos. However, things are not in black and white. This book explains to us what degree of weakness the Chilean state had reached in the 1870s and how many internal quarrels and struggles, fights for power, personal ambitions, social problems such as crime and poverty were in Chile at that time. Well, it's not a consolation for fools maybe, but sometimes that inferiority complex and victimization on the one hand and the superiority complex and arrogance on the other, unfortunately, and it is also seen on television, the press and the internet, is like a dialogue among deaf people. There will not be consensus in many cases. Therein lies the contribution of this book. It invites us Peruvians to get to know that perspective of Chile. Discourses that until now have not been able to heal, perhaps, and it is everyone's responsibility to know and not repeat inaccurate things. Obviously, this book is not the ultimate truth, but I believe it plays a very important role in the debate. Many aspects of the atrocities committed are narrated and explained to us. Common points such as the Lynch expedition, the escape of Peruvian President Prado, the role of military leaders like Cáceres or Pierola, and how Chile believed that by invading Lima and terrorizing the northern coast, it was going to achieve unconditional peace once and for all. But it ran into the guerrillas in the Andes Mountains. Everything that is found here is quite rich, including the testimonies of the soldiers. from their personal perspective, and there we can see how much influence the official discourse by the government had on individuals. Those soldiers also categorize the other. They create an other. They see Lima as a trophy, how that great colonial city ends up being feminized, depicted as a decadent woman, a prostitute who can and must be taken, possessed by force, and will end up wanting to be possessed. They regard the women of Lima despising men from Lima, considering effeminate men. So those gender discourses, feminization as something inferior or dissolute compared to that Chile, which is sober, austere, masculine, strict and correct, is something that one must know. I invite you to get this book in its new edition. This is the old one. It has captivated me. There are more than 400 pages, and at times I admit that I can get lost in the face of the large number of Chilean names that go beyond presidents Pinto and Santa Maria, or the famous or infamous Patricio Lynch, the only Chilean ones that I was familiar since school. But there are so many Chilean characters in the end that, yeah, it might be overwhelming. But this work goes beyond specific names or individuals. It is more on the side of a government policy that is promoted as civilizational. And there are also testimonies, letters, many documents from foot soldiers. War is seen from different perspectives and levels. Thank you so much. Bye bye.